Winnipeg is back in the big leagues and over the moon.
Welcome to the landing strip with Nick Lynham and Mikey Garcia, presented by From Financial.
Welcome back to the landing strip after a late night snoozer between the LA Kings and the Winnipeg Jets. The type of game we've come to expect in these West Coast swings between these two teams the last couple of years. Before I get to you, Mikey, as Turd Ferguson says it here, this show should be 5 minutes long. Slow, ugly, boring game. There are no 3 stars, and the From Financial faceoff was 5 guys in black standing along the Kings goal line once they made it 1-0. Kings blue line, he meant. Mikey, I'm going to bring you in now. What do you think? How are you doing today, and what do you think of Turd's takeaway there?
Yeah, that's. I think he nailed it there. I don't know how we can do a whole lot more than beyond, kind of what Turd laid out there. It's this was a rough one. If you suffer from any type of sleep disorder whatsoever, this would have been the perfect game to toss on and lull you right into that dreamland, because oh my God, not a whole lot happened. Clogged up neutral zone the entire game. It was just like you said. This seems to be the trend when the Jets go out on these West Coast swings. So. If you stayed awake through that whole thing, hats off to you. We did it so that we could come out here and talk about it with you guys. So, yeah, let's see what we can do.
Yeah, I imagine most people are going to be listening the day after on this one.
I hope so.
And the next 6 games are all these late night swings, so it should be an interesting stretch for this Jets team on a bit of a schedule where I think. Obviously, they get Lowry back. They can make maybe a bit of a hay here with what's been going on in their division. Some of the losses early from St. Louis and Minnesota. As usual, though, let's start the show off. It was a boring one, but what was your biggest takeaway from the Jets versus Kings on this night?
Yeah, not a whole lot of exciting things to pull out of the game tonight. Obviously, I think the big thing that we can kind of say is, hey, Adam Lowry's back. First game back after off-season surgery, so that's good to see. Although we did lose Morgan Barron now week to week, apparently. So that's, just as we're starting to get healthy, and we were excited to see what some of these line combinations could start to look like. We lose another piece, so that isn't great. But, yeah, my big takeaway was, hey, Adam Lowry's back, I guess.
Yeah, we'll get into Lowry and Barron here in a second, because I think that'll be a good place to start off. My big takeaway might surprise you on a night like this, but my big takeaway was I think this was John Taves' best game, and I think I've been taking the patient approach wanting to see where this goes over the course of the season. I think this was the first game for me where I see the total upside that people have been saying they see as a potential second line center.
Yep.
Today was a game where Jonathan Toews is both his IQ, but the physical ability was there with it. I felt he was really driving the bus on that line, and I want to talk about that line combo as we get into this show. A few big chances from him that he created. There was that shift where after LA goes up 1-0, Taves, Lambert, and I believe it was Nino or Nemestikov jump over the boards, and it was a great bounce back shift from allowing a goal against, and I felt that Jonathan Toews was the driver of that. So my big takeaway today was I think this is the best version we've seen of Jonathan Toews, and that could be exciting if that's a version we're going to see more and more frequently as we get deeper into this season for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, this is the first time I think we've seen the offensive side of things start to come into place for Johnny Toews. The swipe that he had, taking the puck off the stick in the offensive zone by himself, and the shot that Kemper unfortunately does get with the glove in the end, but we're starting to see those pieces come together. We know that the IQ is there. We know that the want and the desire is there. We've just been waiting to see if the body's going to keep up with the mind. And it looks like he's finally putting that all together right now. If that offensive level is going to come, that's going to be something that the Jets really can benefit off of. So, yeah, I agree. This was the best showing we've seen from him so far.
Yeah, and that's very encouraging to me, as the Jets are going to be looking for more upside as this season goes on, and to see this version of Toews for me is encouraging at this point in the season. Frosty Winnipeg says, "Hey strippers," not that I've ever uttered that before. Good to see you in the chat on this late evening, Frosty. Always a pleasure to have you, Mikey. Let's start with Adam Lowry and move into Morgan Barron. What did you think of Adam Lowry's return to the lineup off of hip surgery here tonight?
It's been something we've been waiting for quite a while now. We've been just kind of, we talked about if the Jets could just tread water until Lowry came back, and they did way more than that. They were able to, thrive, bank some points, and it's going to take some time to get the full Lowry back. This is the first game after such a long stretch being off. That line in general didn't have, maybe the best night 5-on-5 tonight, but you saw Lowry individually playing penalty kill minutes. You saw him taking big face-offs. He, I thought for a guy that's been gone for so long, it was just nice to see him out there, get his legs back under him, and as the games go on, as he starts to get reacquainted with everything, I think we're going to see the Adam Lowry of old not too soon.
Yeah, I see the mayor of Transcona, T. Kona Pauly, says it was good just to see the captain back out there getting through a game. And I think that's my big takeaway on Adam Lowry's game, is just good to see him back healthy, back a part of this. We know he's a very core element to the culture they got going on, but also to the Winnipeg Jets game plan and how they deploy their units up front. We know how important he is to having everything kind of roll. I thought this was a tough start from him, but I think that's to be expected coming off of a surgery quite like the hip surgery. It's also a month into the season, and we've seen for years now when players do miss that training camp, there's going to be a bit of a build-up period. So I didn't think today was Lowry's best game. I wouldn't have expected his best game coming off what he's coming off of. There's that one turnover that they highlighted that leads to a LA chance that Hellebuck makes a pad save on. He got a big lick in on Kuzmenko, so it was nice to see the Lowry train bring that physicality. But I did think this was probably a rough start, and that's to be expected as he works his way back to game shape, getting back into the flow of things when everybody's got a month ahead of him right now.
And the other part to look at too is the bulk of his 5-on-5 minutes tonight were played up against the Kopitar line. So it's not like he was drawing. It's not like he's drawing easy assignments out of the gate, right? Like first game back, tossed right into the deep end, taking on the Kopitar line, playing penalty kill. yeah, the results maybe weren't exactly what you want from it, but I think, like you said, that's just going to come with some time here, especially after that type of surgery. So, yeah, I'm like just happy to have him back.
Um, Kopitar, kind of a shame. It's his last season. That guy, for someone that
He
can't
can
skate
play
that
still,
well
man.
at his age, he is still so physically dominant and able to play this sport at a high level.
Yep.
It's impressive to see. I won't miss watching him against the Jets per se, given how he handles them, especially along the walls and what he's able to create. I thought he was real dangerous on this night. Old friend Joel Armia
That's
had
right.
quite the night today.
Revenge
Um,
game.
on that line with Kopitar
Yep.
really winning the board battles. He gets the assist, going low to high on the first goal of this game, maybe the second goal of this game. We'll get into that in a second. But I thought this was a pretty good night from Joel Armia on the other side as well.
Yeah, it's interesting to see a guy like Armia, who we know pretty intimately well here in Winnipeg after his time with the Jets, riding shotgun on a line with Kempe and Kopitar. Again, not necessarily because he's a quote unquote top line or top six type of guy, but you've got a pairing in Kopitar and Kempe that you've got somebody that can ride shotgun, that can maybe get them the puck in good situations, and you can play off of that. It's almost like you should spread talent around in a lineup. It's crazy to think about. But yeah, it's it was interesting to see all the former you had former Jets on the Kings, you had a bunch of former Kings on the Jets, a whole bunch of revenge going on tonight.
Frosty Winnipeg says Lowry was okay. I might have waited for the next game when we start to play the really bad teams. And Tico Napoli says it will take Lowry a month to catch up. And I think those are both probably fair takeaways here. One last thing on Lowry, and then we'll kind of keep moving here. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone now that Kyle Connor's been extended. Adam Lowry is next on the list. And we got another update from Drager today saying it's a super priority for both sides. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. And he mentioned that they're getting close, but not quite there, on a longer-term deal. What do you think a long-term deal looks like for Lowry in his age 32, turning age 33 season? What's your kind of projection on what this extension looks like that's coming down the pike here?
I'm real curious to see what a quote unquote long-term deal is going to entail for Adam Lowry, because like you said, you're not giving somebody already into his 30s, an 8-year deal. That's not the type of long-term I think we're going to be looking at, right? So where does that line start to come in? I'm real curious. I honestly don't know right now. I've been so back and forth on what that. I've never doubted that the Lowry deal is going to get done. Both sides want it done. I don't think either side is going to try and go way beyond what the value of that contract should be. The length is what I've really been curious about on how they're going to work that out. I've been real back and forth on it. I would think no more than 5 years, but it's hard to say.
And our chat, they're on the ball. They're beating me to where I was going with this one. So the way I kind of see this is it'd be similar to some of the deals we've seen elsewhere, like the Chris Tanev deal with the John Tavares deal. Now those guys are a bit older than Lowry is, but I think the longer term you go, maybe the AAV comes down rather than the reverse you see with mid-20s, late 20s guys.
Yep.
And I see over on YouTube, Tico Napoli says 5 times 4.75. Harjivan Parwana says incoming 4 times 4 to $5 million. My range in my head that's made sense, I'm trying to project this out, was 5 to 6 years in the $4.5 to $5 million range would be my guess. I think that's kind of the right range that this is going to fall between. And I'm really curious to see what this looks like. I think this has been a no-brainer. I think Adam Lowry's uniquely valuable to Winnipeg. Obviously, he's the culture carrier. He's the captain. He was their second ever draft pick. And he has such a big role with how they use him up the middle and no real replacements coming. Yep. We know they're locked into this core. And Adam Lowry seems to be the next one that will be getting his last contract to stay in Winnipeg.
Yep. So yeah, 6 years feels long to me still, but I wouldn't be super shocked. But yeah.
Another guy you mentioned with the return of Adam Lowry, it also comes with the loss of Morgan Barron And Gustav Nyquist also hits the IR today, though he's eligible to come off quick and likely get replaced by Barron, who's week to week. What'd you think when you saw the Barron news, despite Lowry coming back?
I was choked. I was absolutely choked. I was really enjoying the Morgan Barron ascent. It's been a real nice start to the season. You know, he's got 3 goals, 3 assists. He was playing real well on the fourth line, played well on the wing when they got him to pop up a spot. He got to keep centering the third line essentially when they moved Nemestikov kind of more permanently over to the wing. It sucked. I was excited to see kind of what we were going to get to do with some of these, line combinations. And it's not day to day. They were very specific on that. It's week to week. So it sucks that just as we're starting to get some of these bodies back, we're losing other pieces right away. The Nyquist thing, yeah, they retroactively popped him on IR. They can take him off anytime. It's fine either way. I know he was starting to play a little bit better right before the injury kind of happened. So, hopefully he can kind of step back into that when he does come. But the Barron one, I'm real upset about because I was excited to see what the lineup was starting to shape out to be.
I actually think Scotty Arneal gave us a little insight into that today when talking about it. He had mentioned, obviously, the Barron thing was tough news, especially with how Morgan Barron's started. We know his pace has been welcome in this lineup. His motor, what he's meant to that penalty kill, which was good again tonight, and we'll get into that. But he had mentioned how they're comfortable because they had Parker Ford to fill in that role. So I think that's an indication that we will get Barron as the 4C when healthy, was kind of my read on it.
Yep.
I don't know if you agree or disagree there.
100% agree.
So what's interesting here, though, based on where one of these line combos are going, and you're talking line combos, we know the first line is going to be staying together. And I thought this was a night where they gave up chances both ways, but they created more quality looks the other way, and they were just missing. It's not a line I'm really worried about offensively. In fact, I thought there was a shift in the second period that kind of encapsulated their good and bad, where Kyle Connor had an easy look off the wall in his own zone, bobbles it, they get hemmed in. But one turnover created an on-man rush the other way, where Gabe Velarde sheltered the puck, got it to Miller, and Miller draws that hooking call.
Yep.
So I thought that line together, and I thought this was a night where Mark Scheifele was a bit off, especially on the power play, which we'll talk about a little bit. But we know that top line is going to be together. They've been great for this team offensively early on this year. It's been a huge boost. We've been projecting Cole Perfetti to jump onto the Jonathan Toews line with Vlad Nemestikov or Iafallo, and that's kind of been what we've been thinking. I got to say, I really liked what I saw from that Toews, Nemestikov, Iafallo line today, where it's the type of line, once they establish the ozone, just feels like a handful to play against. I thought they were all over LA on the forecheck in this one. I thought Toews was really looking to drive the net and get some good looks. We saw Iafallo get a look backdoor that he just couldn't bury. Nemestikov's been a real nice fit on the wing with Jonathan Toews early. That I'm almost thinking about potentially having Perfetti jump onto the Adam Lowry and Nino combination if this group can keep going the way it is, because I do think it adds an element that we've talked about, and we saw a couple of shifts of it, where we've talked about the Jets really get going and are a lot more dangerous offensively when they're able to pile shifts on to the back of each other in the ozone, and that comes from really grinding teams down. I think that Toews, Nemestikov, Iafallo line early on here, and it is early, has shown that they have the ability to really do that and take over and control shifts. And I thought they had a night today that just really had me rethinking what I might do with the middle six.
I definitely agree with the process and how that's been going with that line. The only thing I would kind of maybe argue back is really everything that Alex Iafallo does on that line, Cole Perfetti can do, and a little bit more. So if they're going to be, playing with that type of, hopefully those type of minutes, I'd rather, Perfetti maybe in that spot and have Iafallo work back down with Lowry and Nino on that line, which gives the Jets kind of that quote unquote secure kind of shutdown line that they're comfortable and familiar with.
I'll counter you with, as Larry gets worked up, we've seen how this team uses him, and I think both as a shutdown line, and we know Cole Perfetti is a quality defensive
Very
player,
good. Yep.
but also adding a bit of offense to a line with Larry and Nino and what they can do on a forecheck to get Cole Perfetti the puck. I don't think I'm open-minded to seeing what that middle six could look like, because I don't think Cole Perfetti playing with Adam Lowry and Nino would be a bad thing, to be quite honest, big picture.
I don't think it's a bad thing whatsoever. I feel like at 5-on-5, the way that they're going to dole out the minutes, I still feel like the Taves line is probably going to end up with more 5-on-5 minutes than the Lowry line on most nights, depending on matchups and things. And I'd still rather Perfetti maybe in a role with Taves getting more 5-on-5 time and trying to squeeze more offense out of that line. I like the idea of Lowry in the offensive position and getting those minutes. I just don't think the Jets are going to do that. And if so,
I
then
think it actually.
No, go
I
ahead.
actually think it gives Cole Perfetti a bit more responsibility with where I think the Larry line ends up in the grand scheme of this. I think I'd be looking at the Larry line as the second line.
If that ends up as the progression, I'm all for it. I'm 100% for it. I just wonder that they've been so reluctant to put Lowry in those minutes prior to this that I get the feeling that they're going to want the Taves line to be that line, and they're going to maybe force that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see. That line just really opened my mind to some new ideas today. Want to talk about a couple of the fourth liners, but I want to go to our chat first. Frosty Winnipeg had said Gustav Nyquist didn't play ? Maybe I'm just used to it. Also says not a single goal tonight from the Jets. Is Jason Hogan the offensive coordinator here too?
Excellent.
Ticona Pauly says didn't Lowry and Fitz have a little chemistry in the past? And hey,
Yep, they did.
I'm saying it.
Yes,
I'm
they did.
there. Tico Napoli asks, Nick, will the Olympic break alter the trade deadline market with moves maybe earlier in January? That's a good question. I could see it. I could see teams wanting to make a move before that break and have someone get comfortable in that new market. But I could also see teams using that break to discuss a lot of those transactions as we get closer to the deadline. The NHL historically has been a very deadline-driven league. Teams aren't really getting out in front of business. I think that period will be a time when we leave the Olympic break with a ton of rumors, a ton of likelihood scenarios, rather than things happening before that.
100% agree. I think if anything, it acts as a bit of a cooler on big trades and things until after that break when teams get that chance to assess it a little better.
HH Living Local has joined the fun this late hour over on Twitch saying, I didn't feel too bad about this, L. Annoyed, but it was what you'd expect for where the roster is right now. And it was a game that was definitely in reach for this team. I thought at the halfway point of this game, it was really a 50-50 game, and the Jets lose a goal off the board. Let's go to that conversation. But I thought at the halfway point, this game could have gone either direction. And it felt to me a little bit, especially when it came to generating offense, once the Kings went into the trap in the neutral zone and clogged things up, the Jets really had trouble getting quality from there out until the goalie was pulled late. I thought you saw that second half of the game, it was really hard for the Jets to get things going. And I guess that's a credit to LA playing the way they did. But let's talk about that goal. Obviously a big conversation point. The Jets appeared to go up 1-0 in this game after Kyle Connor and Josh Morrissey play give and go at the top of the zone. Josh Morrissey gets to the middle of the ice and blasts one through. It's immediately waved off for a Gabe Velarde goaltender interference. Mikey, what did you think of the call? What did you think of the challenge? And what did you think of the review on that goal or non-goal that came off the board?
Yeah, they the NHL's been real interesting on what's goaltender interference and what's not goaltender interference. We know the Jets famously and Connor Hellebuck have sent the league video packages in the past in the offseason of like, hey, here's some things that we need clarification on because how is this goaltender interference but these other things aren't? And so there's anytime you get something like this come up, you know it's going to be a big question mark, and it feels like they have a tendency to want to side with the call made on the ice. Unless something is like over the top, completely egregious, changes the way that you see that the way that the goal happened, they're pretty conservative with it in that aspect where they just kind of want to let the goal or the call on the ice stand. So I wasn't shocked that since they called it no goal initially for goalie interference that it didn't come back. It's pretty, again, you watch it and it looks fairly clear that, the LA player initiates a contact that leads into the alleged interference, but they didn't call it that way initially on the ice, and they didn't call it that way afterwards on the replay. So am I surprised? No. Would I have called that goalie interference? No, I think that was a little bit, it's light and that most of the contact gets initiated by the LA player coming through. So, but either way, I don't think it really affected the outcome of the game all that much. The Jets were chasing right towards the end, and they didn't have the jump.
Yeah, that's definitely not a goaltender interference in the version of hockey I grew up playing and watching. And
Nope.
I've given up betting on what way the call is going to go, though I think you're right that the call on the ice really played the biggest part in where that call was going to go either direction watching the replay.
Yeah.
Don't love the call myself, and I see the goalie union himself, T. Conopoli, says weak call. In my book, in my definition of goaltender interference, that one doesn't reach it, but on this night, it reached the NHL's definition. And yeah, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you go, yeah, of course they're not going to give it to the Jets. You just you watch it happen and you go, come on. But yeah, even on the replay, it's real clear that it's not. But they just, lately it feels like they've got a real tendency to just kind of stick with what the call on the ice was and kind of want to move on from it.
Yeah, and outside that first period, it felt like the Jets were in a great spot. And then Joel Armia goes to work down low, and Adrian Kempe beats both Scheifele and Morrissey to the net front for a pretty easy goal on Kempe's part. Outside of that, LA gets their only non-empty net goal on their power play. They go 1 for 6 on this night. Kevin Fiala gets the goal, assisted by a great pass from Corey Perry. Fiala finds the middle of the ice and snipes it top corner. But this was a night I thought the Winnipeg Jets penalty kill was strong. I didn't find the LA Kings power play to be very eventful at all on this night. Outside of the 5-on-3, and Kuzmenko misses that backdoor wide open. On a 5-on-3, you're expecting a power play to create some kind of opportunity. But outside that the Fiala play and the Kuzmenko miss, for taking 5 penalties, one being a double minor from Vlad, who also drew 2 in this game as well on his behalf. The double minor ends up killing them, but they go 1 for 6 on the power play. What'd you think of the Jets' penalty kill on this night?
Yeah, the LA power play, especially those first couple ones, were just a comedy of errors. I think they ended up both on the first 2 attempts there. They ended up taking a penalty themselves. One of them for too many men on the ice. Right? It was just couldn't get set up. They couldn't get shots through. It was the Jets did a really good job of just taking away all of the lanes for it. So. Yeah, 1 for 6. They were really able to kind of close it all out and not even look like they were in jeopardy for the vast majority of them. So, yeah, that penalty kill continues to be absolutely the secret weapon compared to the power play for the Jets at the moment, which has very quickly and quietly dried right up. 0 for 8 in the last 2 games. Is that right?
Yeah, and today was a real tough one with the 0 for 5. This was a special teams heavy game.
Yep.
And we know the Jets at 5-on-5 haven't been great at continuing or drawing 5-on-5 offense and creating good looks. They've been very good on the power play outside of this little dry spell. But I thought it looked really off today. LA did a really good job on their behalf, pressuring the puck carriers when they saw a chance to create a bit of havoc. I also did think the Jets' power play looked a bit lazy at times. We're bobbling pucks. Nothing felt clean for them tonight. And, yeah, it just was not a great night at all. When you have 5 opportunities and can't put one in and didn't even look overly dangerous throughout them, I think it was a bit of a tough go tonight. And the last couple of games on the power play. What'd you think? Yeah,
it's time that they're I feel like it's starting to catch up to them a little bit, right? The lack of bodies, the amount of opportunities and things like that. It's, we're going to have to see how it's going to look once you get maybe a Perfetti back into the power play mix. But that's really the only piece that's going to kind of change things going forward. So they're going to have to fix this themselves with essentially the guys that they have out there. Because, yeah, you can't be going 0 for 5 in a game where, you essentially lost by, only one non-empty net goal. You kind of would have liked maybe one of those 5 to go in for you.
Yes. Ticona wants to know, Nick, ... Miller's game, ? Shooting, jumping into the play, drawing calls. What did you think of Colin Miller today, who was supposed to play this game on his offhand beside Luke Schenn?
Yep.
Fleury was supposed to be a scratch. What did you think of the third pair? What did you think of Colin Miller tonight?
It's interesting how we've been cycling through here on this third pairing, and guys are dropping real quick out of nowhere. I think it's no secret that we kind of prefer Colin Miller for the options that are available to the Jets on that right side on that third pairing. And this kind of game was what you want to see, right? He was jumping up into the play. He was drawing penalties. He's able to get that shot through. It was a lot better, especially because he got to play on his actual, correct side tonight than what we got to see in the last game. And like I mentioned the other day, it was a miracle how well he could come in and play last year, completely cold, no games, long stretches off in between, play once, be off for 2 weeks. There was going to be a little bit of bumps in the road if that was going to keep happening to him. So, I wasn't surprised that he just, maybe needed a little bit of time to kind of get his feet beneath him, and this was starting to see the benefits of that. And yeah, again, much better to see him on that right-hand side right now than Luke Schenn.
Yeah, and this was a night where it looked like he gained some trust. If you look at the ice time, he was 5th when it comes to D in ice time, ahead of only Hayden Fleury, but by almost 4 minutes. And he was just behind Neil Pionk on this night at 5-on-5 ice time, just behind Josh Morrissey as well. And I thought this was a night that showed his skill set pretty well. You saw him jump into that rush and make it a 3-on-2, which ended up drawing that hooking call. You see a bit of physicality in his game. Just how much quicker he's able to move the puck up the ice and what that means for the Jets. I was very comfortable, and I haven't been able to say this often with the third pair in Winnipeg today or this year, but I was really comfortable with both that Fleury-Miller pairing and Miller's minutes in this one. And for me, he's my third pairing guy that I'm keeping in. If you want to roll the other two, go ahead. I do see like Miller and Fleury. There was one shift that stands out particularly in the second period defensively where they both seem to kind of lose control of their body at times, and it looks awkward. And I know that could be a bit of a concern at times when you're trying to trust somebody. But I thought this was a strong showing from Colin Miller. I think at this stage he offers more. And I think he's had a tougher start to this year. This was probably his best game.
Yep.
But I think at this point he does offer more to Luke Schenn. And I think he should be the mainstay on that third pair, playing with probably Logan Stanley when Sandberg's back.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at with Colin Miller.
Yeah, absolutely. In a game like tonight where you had so much of it played on special teams, you then kind of have to lean on your guys that don't play special teams a little bit, right? Because those moments in between those spots, they have to be the ones playing. Otherwise, you've just completely gassed out. That's why the 5-on-5 ice time kind of looks the way that it does on defense, right? You've got Miller, who played only, a minute less than Neil Pionk, a minute less than Josh Morrissey. Logan Stanley played the most 5-on-5 tonight. Just because, again, at those are your guys in between, right? The Stanley and the Millers, who are going to be playing not on the penalty kill, not on the power play. If Luke Schenn was in tonight and having to play those extra 5-on-5 minutes in between, again, the game maybe looks a whole hell of a lot different. So I was, much happier to have Colin Miller taking up those minutes tonight than what we've seen, unfortunately, lately from Luke Schenn.
T. Conapoli says Miller plays with an edge too, and Stan Miller would be okay.
Yeah, that's a fine third pairing when Dylan Sandberg comes back.
All right, let's move from there into the From Financial Face-Off.
Let's hit it. Right on.
Right on, Mikey. You know the drill by now. What is your From Financial Face-Off moment or difference in this game? If you're in this chat late at night, let us know what your From Financial Face-Off was on this night. Mikey, start us off, buddy.
I touched on it just a few seconds ago. It was the 0 for 5 power play, 0 for 8 in the last 2 games. you had a 1-goal game for a big chunk of this one on a night where you didn't have your best stuff. Neutral zone was completely clogged up. Center of the ice was completely clogged up. LA was just taking away everything that you were trying to do 5-on-5. To get so many opportunities on the power play and not be able to really close it off it was just tough. So that's the thing that stood out for me in terms of the flow of the game, where it could have changed. If that power play is clicking like we've seen it in the past, the Jets come away from this one with us going, yeah, it didn't look great. It wasn't their best effort, but they banked 2 points, and that's what they got to do. So I think that was the big difference tonight.
Over on YouTube, Tico Napoli's From Financial Faceoff was Lowry's return. Obviously a nice jolt as he gets back into this. Mikey, I was going to go the same direction as you, but I'll go a little bit off the board to keep this going and we're not copying each other. I'll give the From Financial Faceoff difference in this game is LA buckling down. I'll give LA credit in this one. I thought on their penalty kill, they did a very good job of pressuring the Jets. You saw what they did as far as clogging up the neutral zone and making it real tough for the Winnipeg Jets to create quality offense as soon as they got a lead. I think the LA Kings did a very good job at home sticking to what they do best and making life real difficult for the Winnipeg Jets. If there's one team that seems to know the formula and have the right skill set to match up against the Jets the last couple of years, it seems to be this Kings team, so I'm going to give them credit on today's From Financial Faceoff.
Yep, makes sense.
Moving out of this one, obviously a long West Coast trip here. What are you thinking record-wise would be a successful road trip from the Winnipeg Jets as they go through this West Coast swing?
So looking at the games that are coming up ahead, it's not really a murderer's row of teams, right? There's a lot of winnable games coming up. Honestly, this is probably the most on its face difficult test for the Jets. They, like Harrison points out over on Twitch, they just seem to have a way with the Jets, the LA Kings. They just the Jets feel like they're cursed not to win there, is how he put it. So I feel like that was the toughest test, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them. We've got another 5 games left on the road here coming up. I wouldn't be surprised to see at least 4 of those coming through as wins, with maybe the Ducks game is going to be an interesting one. They're playing a hell of a lot better than what I was expecting, and but yeah, outside of that, I think the Jets should have a pretty good opportunity here to keep racking in the points.
Yeah, they got the Sharks up next on Friday. Obviously an exciting team that can't play any defense as of yet.
Yep.
That's the type of game I expect that this Winnipeg Jets team should win and should do so in pretty convincing fashion. The Ducks do look like the toughest game the rest of the way with how they've started. Leo Carlson seems to be breaking out. Cutter Gauthier seems to be breaking out. Jacob Trouba having a career start to his campaign. The Ducks, Quenneville has the Ducks playing good hockey, so that'll be a fun test.
Yep.
I'm excited to see how that one looks on Sunday. Jets versus Canucks. Canucks have been very up and down, and that's a team that's been battling a ton of injuries. A ton of injuries. Feel like that's the type of game the Winnipeg Jets should come away with on this trip. And that's the type of team, if you beat them in that one, with how they're struggling early season to get a real roll going, you just kick them down the standings of the Western Conference and potentially turn them into a cellar. So that'll be an interesting one. I do think the Jets should take that game. The Kraken come up next. Obviously, they had a bit of a hot start. Bit of OT merchants with 4 OT loser points. Third in the Pacific, but I think that's a team that's definitely beatable for this Winnipeg Jets team.
Yeah.
And then Calgary has just been miserable. That's a game they expect. If they don't go like 4-2 on this road trip, I might call that a bit of a road woes type of trip rather than a success.
Yep.
I think that they should beat the 500 mark on this trip.
Yes, they should. Again, these are the teams that they need to kind of feast on a little bit here. So hopefully it's a get-right game coming up for, Lowry now. Again, he'll have a game under his feet. This should be the start of a nice roll.
Ticon and Pauly guesses a 3-2-1, and hey, by points percentage, they would beat 500 with that record.
Yep.
But this does seem, and they got guys that joined the trip, right? Like we might get a Perfetti return, we might get a Sandberg return. Guess of Nyquist, I imagine at some points comes back, so they still might add some help while playing a bit of these teams that are a bit softer on the schedule.
Yep.
This is the type of road trip, and this is the type of month I want to see the Jets really build off of their strong start in the standings with more stronger, consistent quality of play. And I think this start to November should be a good spot to really see those steps taken.
Yeah, totally agree. And the fact that all of the games, I know they're all late starts, so for us locally trying to watch them, it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, right? But all of the games at least are at the same time going forward for the Jets during this road trip, so they can get back into kind of their rhythm, their routine, right, of what they're kind of more used to. And yeah, we'll start to see maybe some more typical Jets hockey.
Do we think it's cruel or a good thing that they get their West Coast vibes out of the way before snowfall hits Winnipeg?
That's rough, actually. I feel bad for them to have this trip now as opposed to, when it's minus 40 here.
Get it out early, eh?
Yep.
Ticon Pauly says late. I'm just getting going.
That's right.
I think you're the only one here. I'm feeling a little bit tired on this night. Any other big stories around the team right now that you had interest talking about? Anything from this game that stands out to you, Mikey?
No, that's how'd you feel Brad Lambert looked tonight, even though it was, again, limited ice time with so much special teams play?
I like that one shift with Taves that I mentioned after that 1-0 game. I thought you saw Taves really work off of his speed, which is something I was curious to see. I think you see a player that's getting a bit more confident with his puck touches rather than just throwing it away, but still someone that I think there's still a lot of work to be done there, and still someone I think is going to head down to the A, even despite the recent bit of success.
Yeah, I think he'll probably be the first one sent back down. And I'm not advocating for this next thing to happen. I'm just curious what your opinion is to maybe why it never did happen. Why do you think Gabe Vilardi never worked out as a center? I know they've kind of toyed with the idea in the past with the Jets and at different levels, but he's always kind of gravitated back to the wing. It looks like his game would kind of work as a center the few times we've seen it, and just kind of the things that he's good at. I was just always kind of curious if you've ever kind of noticed anything about that jump out at you.
So two things stand out for me there. I believe the Kings finally pulled the shoot there because of how frequently his body was breaking down, and they were trying to get him out of the positions and the extra work that a center does that were kind of exposing some of those injuries, especially with the back. So I think it was partly health, but the other side of it for me would be the pacing side of it. He's looked a step faster to me this year, but I think he's such a specialized player. Like his skill set that he's really strong at, I think he's better suited as a winger than trying to make it work as a center. I just think a center for him would be too much on the plate and would take away from what he excels at and make the game a bit more difficult for him, would be my takeaway on that.
Makes sense. Yeah. I get that. Yeah, I get that. It was something I was thinking about today watching him again. And again, I'm not advocating for the Jets to try that. That's not, we know that he works on that line as a winger, and his role with Scheifele and Connor is well defined, and he does it extremely well. So it was just one of those things I wanted to get what your thoughts were. So that makes sense. Thank you.
No, for sure. No problem. Ticon and Pauly was on the right track with me as well. Probably worry about his back, and that was such a big problem for him in his early years.
Yep.
To wrap up the Brad Lambert talk, HH Living Local over on Twitch said Brad's D-zone work is still a hot mess. He needs to cheat less in the neutral zone too. And I just think for sure he's had some flashes, but that to me is a guy that could use some more AHL time.
Yeah, totally agree.
Or maybe there's a report out of Philly that they're not too thrilled with Konechny and Tippett early on, and the Tip is back to being more available, and they would do something around current young players and draft picks. Maybe Brad Lambert's meant to be a flyer.
As much as I've been a Brad Lambert, fan and trying to keep, hoping this was going to work out. Yeah, if you can bring in a talent like Tippett, that would be a real nice start for the Jets. That'd be perfect.
I do think he fits a lot of what this team could use in their middle six.
Yep.
We'll see where that continues to go, but I found that interesting that came out again this week.
Yep.
Tico Napoli asks, is Pavel Zacha on the trade block? Conflicting information on that. They've definitely shopped him. That's been clear. There was a report that the Jets were close to a trade on him at the deadline last year, and he refused to waive, though that's been refuted. So I don't know how true that is. But there's also been reports that Boston sees him as a key piece and they might extend him, which would be really silly, in my opinion. But
yeah,
the NHL is nicknamed the Nothing Ever Happens League for a reason.
Yep.
So we'll see where that goes. But I could see Pavel Zacha on the move. I think that's a good player, but I think that's, again, more of the same of what the Jets kind of have.
Yes, that's not one that I'd be spending assets to go out and grab.
Especially given how much he'll likely cost on the market, given there's no centers. Kadri being the big one if Calgary finally does decide to pull the trigger. But I just think, Zacha for what you're going to probably have to pay given the market. I think you could do better searching some other spots. But, hey, that is a quality left wing / center. So I get the allure there.
Yeah, 100%. I'd rather honestly, I'd rather just like a pure shooter for the wings at that point, because it's going to cost you a lot less to go out and grab.
Or you might get some term attached with a guy like Tippett, who's the team's souring on him, right? That
would be wonderful. That's the type of deal that they need to make, where you can start to shore up that spot for a longer term contract.
Let's move into the 3 stars and get on with our early mornings.
Yep.
As we approach the 1:20 hour. Let's get into the 3 stars. Ticona, who's your 3 stars? HH Living Local, who's your 3 stars? And we'll get into ours here.
Let's hit it. Right on.
Mikey, where are you going with your 3 stars on this evening?
Whew, that was a tough one to hand out stars in for me. I'm going to be honest. I kind of racked up and down the lineup trying to put together who was going to come away with the stars on this one. So 3rd star, I'm going to give it back out to the penalty kill. Just in general, just the whole grouping right across the board. That was kind of the lone bright spot from the on-ice portion of the Jets for me tonight. So they're going to get my 3rd star. My 2nd star, just because he is back, I'm going to give it to Adam Lowry. Like to see him. He played the whole game, didn't get hurt, so I'm real happy about that. So Lowry, just by, and again, he had tough matchups all night, played on the penalty kill right off the hop. They threw him into the deep end. So I'm going to give it to him, even though it wasn't maybe the best result of what we would have liked. And number 1 star goes out to all of the babysitters, all of the bus drivers, all of the people who, got you home tonight if you were out watching the game at an establishment, having some food, having some drinks, and you stayed throughout all of that awful, boring game. The people that helped you do it, they get my number 1 star.
Over on YouTube, Ticona Pauly's 3 stars are Kempe, Helly, Miller. L.May 004 is Hellebuck, the PK, and Kepke. I want to touch on Kepke really quick. I thought this was another solid game from him, especially on the special teams. Him and Pearson deserves all the credit. There's a guy that I wasn't big on his camp, but I've actually have not minded how he's looked on this Jets roster, especially on that PK. He wins that battle at the top of the blue. And then he has a little bit of a speed burst in him that I wasn't seeing much in training camp.
Nope.
Gets a 2-on-1, sets up Kepke. Kepke had 2 or 3 good looks today and just couldn't bury. But continues to put himself in good spots. There's a motor there. There's a work ethic there that I really like from Kepke as a bottom liner.
Yep.
Really want him to score one of those, or else I'm going to have to start wondering if he's James Wright 2.0, though.
Hey, come on now. We can call him Mason Appleton 2.0.
But I do like the work ethic, and I like what I've seen from him on the PK and with what they want a fourth line to look like.
Yep.
My 3 stars on this night are going to have trouble giving them to Jets in a 3-0 loss.
Oof.
I'll go third star. Anze Kopitar. He's on his way out, still able to dominate minutes. Draws a penalty on Logan Stanley just from being physically more dominant, which is quite the trait against someone that big.
Yep.
Kopitar's been a handful for this Jets team to handle for some time. On his way out, I'll give him the third star. Second star, I will go with old friend, Yoel Armia. Doing a lot of the little things on that number 1 line or number 2 line, depending how you want to
How
phrase
you look at it. Yeah.
Has a primary assist due to his work on the game-winning goal. Yoel Armia revenge game. We're talking about the Jets guys for a revenge game. We'll give Yoel Armia
That's right.
second star on this night. And the number 1 star, I like to reward goalies when they put up a shutout. I think the Jets created, but they could have got in on rebounds. I thought Kemper was a bit vulnerable there tonight, but he doesn't let one get by him. I'll go with Kemper as the number 1 star in this night. If you stuck around the show this late, we very much appreciate you and thank you for your support. If you're listening the next morning, I don't blame you. And we once again thank and appreciate you for the support. If you can, like this show, subscribe, send it to a friend if you're enjoying this. And we'll see you for another late one on Friday after the San Jose Sharks play the Winnipeg Jets.
Right on. Good night, everybody.